Is everyone ready? Okay. Good afternoon and welcome to Chestnut Ridge Park. We are here to introduce to the people of Erie County a few new parts of our fleet. These beautiful tracked vehicles behind us, the two that are immediately behind us that we've purchased since last year, in addition to a lot of the other supplies and equipment that you see, all of that which has been here for quite some time. I'm Erie County Executive Mark Poloncarz, and I'm joined by representatives of the Department of Public Works, the Department of Parks, our Sheriff's Office, well, so make sure I didn't forget anybody here, Emergency Services, Department of Health, because we just wanted to let the public know that, well, we've had the first snowfall of the year, and we normally do our sort of winter press conference over at one of the Department of Public Works barns. We also wanted to let the public know that there's other equipment that we have, not just our big plows, that we use during the winter. You see these two new piston bully, is the official name, piston bully tracked vehicles that have been acquired by the Parks Department to be in addition to the other tracked vehicles that we have. They can be used during extreme winter conditions, but then they also have a daily use in that they're groomers for our parks hills, such as the snow hill here at Chestnut Ridge, one of the best sledding hills in all of western New York, as well as the other places that we have, like Como Park, Spraguebrook, Erie, where we have the ski hill. So we have these tracked vehicles that we use during the winter all along, and then they can be used also, as they have been, in winter extreme situations. And the new ones are the largest ones that we've added to our fleet, and they allow us to actually have up to 10 people that can be transported at any one time during an extreme winter situation. We learned last year during the blizzard that it's important to have all of our possible fleet at the ready, so to speak, and that's what we've done in prior storms, but we've also, as I noted, added to it. You're going to hear a little bit more about some of the actions that have been taken in the past year by our Emergency Services Department. We're glad to be joined by the Deputy Commissioner of Emergency Services, Greg Butcher, who's responsible for those disaster type here today by our Commissioner of the Department of Public Works, William Gary. He'll talk a little bit more about what the Department of Public Works is doing, but it is a joint effort between everyone that you see here, from the Parks Department, which includes not only the Parks team and staff, but our Parks Rangers, who've worked during all of these emergency situations, as well as, of course, the Erie County Sheriff's Office, and I'm very pleased that we're joined by members of the Erie County Sheriff's Office special tactical team, including the members of the SWAT team. But these are the gentlemen who go out in some of the worst conditions, are trained to go out in the worst conditions. I know they unfortunately have to jump through the ice here and learn what it's like to jump in the coldest water to help rescue someone who may be trapped in water during winter. And I want to thank them for the work that they've done through the years, and also I know what they'll do in the future to help individuals in distress in our community, and also ensure the peace and safety of our community. But it is a united effort between the Emergency Services, the Department of Health, Department of Public Works, Department of Homeland Security Emergency Services, the Erie County Sheriff's Office, and others when it comes to a winter extreme situation. We work very well together. This is not our first event that we've had to deal with. I was looking through, and since 1950, official blizzards in Erie County, 5 of them have occurred while I was county executive. A blizzard in January of 14, a blizzard in March of 14, a blizzard in January of 18, a blizzard in January of 19, and then, of course, the December blizzard last year. And so we know with climate change we're going to be dealing with more of these, because we've had more blizzards just in the last less than 10 years, since January of 14, than we had in the period before then to 1950. So we have to be prepared, and that's what we're doing here in Erie County, is preparing for the worst and hoping for the best. We always do hope we're going to have a mild winter and not have bad winters, but we've seen it unfortunately lately where we've had some pretty bad storms. And the blizzards do not include the superstorm that hit us last November with 7 feet of snow in this area right here, nor the 7 feet of snow that hit in November of 2018, because the winds were not strong enough to qualify for a blizzard. We got the snow, but we didn't have a blizzard. So we know we've had some horrible storms in the last few years. We're investing our tax dollars into equipment that can be used in a blizzard, but also has the availability of being used in the regular service of our Parks Department, just like trucks that plow are used during the winter to plow snow and then are used during construction. It just goes to show we're making wise investments when it comes to our equipment that we do use during the horrible situations of extreme weather. With that, I'd like to turn it over to our Deputy Commissioner of the Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Services, Greg Butcher, to talk a little bit more about what the Emergency Service Department is doing and always does to prepare for a worst-case situation, including getting ready for the winter weather. Greg?
Thank you, County Executive. Good afternoon, everyone. So behind me and behind all of the individuals who are part of this team, you see a whole lot of equipment. Well, it takes training and a lot thereof. So we've taken the opportunity post-blizzard to do some extensive training. We have actually not only trained staff, but we have trained trainers to continue to expand our cadre of individuals who are capable of manning this equipment. In addition to that, we took an opportunity to create a task force. This task force is made up of members of the Parks Department that will be able to operate some of this equipment, as well as our Sheriff's Special Operations crew, which are trained in cold weather rescue. In addition to that, members of the Erie County EMS Division, who are obviously trained medical professionals, are going to be part of this to help render aid to individuals who may need that. That has presented us with a great opportunity, and all of this is falling on the heels of this morning's regional state exercise, which encompassed all of the counties of Western New York and the larger municipalities, in which we had an opportunity to exchange information and elaborate best practices within each of our counties to hopefully improve all of the different things that we're doing. So today is an opportunity for you to be reassured that we are prepared and hoping that we don't have to use this equipment, but that you know we are capable of taking care of that. Thanks.
Thank you, Greg, and I also want to thank him and his team, because it was just a few weeks ago that they held a special training session for City of Buffalo personnel, including City Police, City Fire, and City Emergency Services Public Works, so that they could understand how the systems that we have, our disaster land system, works and become better users of it. So I want to thank them for doing that training. And then those individuals are the trainers that go out and will be training the rest of the City of Buffalo team. This is what we do for all of the towns, all of the cities, all of the villages. We actually work with them 365 days of the year, but you notice it when the storm hits. That's when it hits, and when you realize the work that's done between all parties to create a safer community for all. And of course, when we talk about winter weather, what people really want to know is, are the plows out there? Who's doing the road? What's going on? We have 1,200 center line miles of roads that are owned by Erie County. It's more than 2,400 lane miles, because some of our roads actually have more than 2 lanes. North, south, east, west. There could be 2 lanes heading east, 2 lanes heading west. And because of the size of our inventory of roads, we don't do them all on our own. We actually partner with the towns and others to actually plow some of those roads for us. Not all of them. We plow a lot of it, but they actually plow it, and we pay them to do it. And it's all part of a relationship that we've had for decades now through our Department of Public Works. And our Department of Public Works Commissioner, William Gary Jr., is someone who is always communicating with the towns to determine what is the best way to handle not only construction season, so that we are not overlapping with construction on roads in immediate areas, but also especially during the winter. He's got a great team that works under him, including Karen Hoke, our Deputy Commissioner of Public Works, who's responsible for our Highway Division. And I want to thank them for the work that they did so far this year, because they're not completely done with construction season yet. There's still some work going on out there because of still having decent enough weather to do it. But they've transitioned. As you can see, the plow is on the big truck now, and they put plows on most of our big trucks at this point because we're ready for the snow in our 5 highway districts, which are as varied as the North Towns, Grand Island, and Tonawanda, which don't get a tremendous amount of snow, and ski country, where we're primarily responsible for the roads, where it's not surprising to have more than 200 inches of snow fall in a season. So, Commissioner, if you can tell them some of the stuff that's new this year, but also the relationships that we've built and how that matters.
Good afternoon. As County Executive said, we are in the process of adding our new equipment into the fleet. Every year we replenish our fleet with at least 5 new frontline plow trucks like what's seen behind us. They don't come at a cheap price by any means. They're about $250,000 a piece. But after last year's winter season and the events that we had a plus up on our high lifts. So we have 10 brand new high lifts coming in. We'll have a total of 20, 4 within every district. The high lifts always become the first line of defense once we get to a point where we get these 3 to 4 inch hour of snow accumulations and the roads are shut down. So the high lifts go in and then we come back through with the plow trucks. But it's been an ongoing, the last year, it's been an ongoing continuum of not just education and training with myself and the team in Public Works, but with the emergency services. We've been redeveloping our plans, trying to make that shift from plans that were probably written 10, 15 years ago that we know these events have become more frequent. The 100-year storms are almost a normal here when it comes to a rainstorm. So we had a pivot just like the weather has. Again, the men and women that work in the Department of Public Works, they're the ones that are out there every day driving, hitting in these snowstorms. They're stuck at work, but they continue to do it, and they do it with great success. We've always been communicating and doing a lot of work with the City of Buffalo. We just had a joint training with the Department of Public Works there. There's a lot of communication going back and forth, how we can efficiently take care of some of the roads too. There's other entities that traditionally in snowstorms that we haven't used, but we've been asking for resources and then been able to come out and help us. Just like with the Parks Department and the task force between all the divisions within Erie County government, but also with our municipal partners. We have basically been tested 2 nights ago with what was supposed to be just a dusting of snow. We had our trucks and crews out starting at about 8 o'clock at night. We had 15,000 tons of salt on hand at that time. I think we depleted a little bit given the black ice conditions that we had, but all in all, just like the normal drivers out there today, we're getting back in. We have new drivers being trained every day as well with retirements and such coming through our department. So Public Works is there. We're tooled, and if it becomes bad conditions, we have these contingency plans where we work with not just the local towns, but New York State DOT, New York State Thruway. And then ultimately, in worst case scenarios, we bring in the contractors. So thanks for getting us all the equipment and money. I know the county executive and the legislature had a big role in that. So thank you.
Thank you, Bill. As Bill noted, these are not inexpensive pieces of equipment. A plow, a new truck, it will cost approximately $250,000, and we buy a brand new one for each of our highway districts each year. So we're replenishing the fleet. We don't have a very old fleet, which is nice because when you have an old fleet, unfortunately, you deal with breakdowns. And one of the things that we've been able to do annually is buy 5 new major trucks, outfit them with new plows, so that we don't have to worry about unfortunately, what I came in is that as county executive is most of the plows have been bought back in the Giambra administration all at once, and they started all breaking down at once, and it was not pretty. But we've eliminated that by constantly investing in our fleet. The men and women you see behind me are part of our task force. It has always existed, even if we didn't necessarily call it a task force, because we've always worked together during the winter storms to ensure the safety of our community and to, when it gets really bad, ensure not only the safety of the community, but that we can open up as quickly as possible. I'm very proud of what they've done. If you remember, just last November, we had 7 feet of snow fall in a very short period of time in Orchard Park, Hamburg area. Right here, Chestnut Ridge got walloped. And it was just a few days after that we were open because of the work of everyone that here and our partners, including in the private sector that we often hire from the contractors to help us get our community open as quickly as possible. So we're prepared. We're prepared for for whatever Mother Nature throws at us. We hope it's not going to be like last year, but if it is, we're ready for it. With that, questions?
Has the county prepared its snow plan yet?
The county's had a winter weather disaster emergency plan. It's been in effect for years. We have not just a snow plan, but we also have plan for ice storms, plan for other items. Turn over to Greg to talk a little bit more about it. But we're different than the city, and the city has a required snow plan. We don't have anything in our charter, but we've had an emergency services winter weather plan for decades, truthfully, and we update it as needed. And I think there's one that dates back, that's been updated multiple times during my administration. It's just we're a little different than the city.
I guess I meant what updates are there, because we had two massive storms, and
Yeah.
we're in November now, so
Yeah.
us South Towners like myself, we remember last year and how tough it was.
Well, we can't stop the snow from falling.
But what
that,
adjustment can you make?
well, we can't make any adjustments other than the issues associated with the information that we discussed previously was more about direct communications with the public, and using the iPause system so that we can directly send message in a really life or death situation to our community. When it comes to snow, when it's that bad, you got to take the plows and other people off the road. You got to take people off the road, and then when it gets to a safe situation again, we put them back on the road. But what we learned last year is, if anything, we need to communicate, probably including in the city of Buffalo, in more languages, that not everybody speaks English, and it's important that the information be sent out in additional languages that we normally don't use during a press conference, but we need to share that with individuals because English might not be their first language. But I'll turn it over to Greg to talk a little bit about the emergency, or Billy, either of them, because they're both involved.
Yeah. So I think the county executive said with the emergency plan that we have, some of the additions, Tara, would be, the iPause system, but not also, we have some new agreements in place with the city of Buffalo as to when certain things are going to trigger, when we will be able to have joint EOC operations. But messaging is going to be huge, because messaging and communication is more important than any piece of equipment that we have. And then I think also you're going to hear is the severity of the tone, the language is going to be much more concise. It's going to be deadly. You may not want to travel because you're going to, loss of life is a thing. Where before, so there's a lot of aspects. Greg and I, ironically, our goal is to have everything updated within the next 30 days here. We've been working on it through the summer because there's been other pieces in place with the city of Buffalo, but also with emergency services on some of the other hazard mitigation plans, and making it all into one document that way.
Yeah, for example, one thing that we learned last year that we didn't expect was the freezing of substations. National Grid didn't even expect it. They had freezing of substations. We've always had good communications with National Grid, and they're usually at our emergency operations center like NICEAG is during a bad situation. But when we think of a bad situation regarding electrical, it's usually power lines are going down and people are losing power. And that's what National Grid was prepared for. They did not expect to see their actual substation freeze like they did. But there's been taken by Erie County. It's an action that's taken by National Grid, but what we learned last year has basically required us to sit down with them. Okay, what's the best way to harden these? They came up with a method that we believe will work. So if we get that extreme weather again, we'll be communicating with National Grid. Are you out there? Are your people out there before the worst situation hits so they can harden the substations? David?
Yeah, I have you mentioned $250,000 for a plow generally like that.
Yeah.
$250,000. How many did you get?
5 new ones. We always buy 5 every year. We have 5 highway districts, so every year we're buying 1 new one per highway district.
$250,000 for the, and these guys go for what?
$338,000
And
each.
those 2 are brand new.
Those are $338,000 each because they're very specialized. The trucks, there are multiple manufacturers of those large trucks and plows. There are very few manufacturers of these.
Okay. So how'd you pay for these? Did you use American Rescue Funds? Did you borrow money? Or was it just part of the regular budget line?
We didn't borrow money. Well, we borrow money for trucks, but on an annual basis. These were paid for with surplus funds from last year.
Where do they stay? They stay here.
One of them will be in Chestnut Ridge. One of them will be in Como, the big ones. So we're putting one at Como because it's more in the urban center, and it'll make it much easier if we have to move it somewhere else in the urban core. They are we can transfer those based on flatbed trucks, so we can move them as necessary. Same thing happened last year. We actually moved a couple of the smaller ones that we already owned into the teeth of the storm, so to speak.
So obviously, I mean, they prevent a blizzard.
No.
And I don't even think you'd take it out during a blizzard if you couldn't see anything with the thing.
Oh, you,
Then you've got to transport it. Like if you wanted to go rescue some people, I don't know, several miles away from where it's sitting.
it just drives. I'll turn it over to Greg.
So,
You're not going to drive fast. You're not going to drive at 10 miles.
you're absolutely correct. So this goes back to the task force group that we had talked about, which is the working group of everyone here. There's a leadership person from each one of those county departments. Prior to a storm, obviously, we get a lot of great information from the National Weather Service regularly. When we determine that these need to be moved, we'll work with our partners at the DPW and parks to help move those, and the sheriffs will help us to determine some of the better areas that their operators from special operations may need to be at. So that is all going to be pre-done pre-storm. Similar to the blizzard, we had 5 days notice. All of your networks talked for 5 days on how this could impact Western New York. We're going to use those talking points as great parameters for us to establish movement of this task force where we can be in a better position to facilitate those needs to rescue individuals.
So it's like the roads have to be cleared to a certain extent for you to get this.
Which is why we would like to pre-deploy these things prior to a storm. Well, they don't need a road once we get them to a location, obviously. But we will pre-put them in locations prior to the
They
storm.
can go anywhere. They're designed to go up and down the ski hills and the yeah. But if the roads are blocked, well then they go off road. That's the advantage of the track.
Okay, 18 miles an hour.
Is there anything new that's being implemented this year? I know you mentioned iPods. I'm curious if that's the blizzard rating scale. Is that
Well, we've retained the University of Albany Meteorological Center to come up with that. We have not received that yet. We're working on that aspect of it. That's the plan. Yes.
And also too, with National Weather Service, there's a color rating, and they're going to be merging with NOAA and some of their ratings. So I think it's the color purple on a storm on a blizzard rating scale. So that with the Mesonet information that comes in, those are some of the triggers that we're talking about that will be documented in our snow plans.
Yeah, as I've said, since I've been county executive, we've had 5 blizzards, including the one that occurred last December. And we never, in the 4 previous blizzards, they were bad. They weren't great, but we had nothing like we dealt with last year. And so I think that's also part of the issue is we can have blizzards that they qualify as a blizzard because of the wind speeds, but they're not as bad as what we dealt with last year, which was the mother of all storms. It's the only way to describe it. Any other on-topic questions? If not, I just want to thank our partners that you see here because each and every one of them plays an incredible role. I often see many of them at the Emergency Operations Center during any type of emergency situation, and you don't see their work. You don't see them working, I should say, often, but you see their handiwork by what they do in our community. And the men and women that are standing behind you today, I can say this because I know it to be true. Saved many, many lives in the actions that they took in the blizzard of 2022. We lost too many individuals in the storm, but it would have been so many more if it wasn't for the actions of the people that you see here, because they were doing things throughout it, putting their own lives at risk to assist those in need, and I just want to thank them for all that they've done. Thank you.